The USFL is on a journey to catch as many players as they can get. We're introducing a new segment. We're going a little bit off topic this week on the USFL Podcast.
1, 2, 3.
Everybody to another edition of the USFL Podcast. I'm the ref representing USFL Newsroom, the number one source in USFL news. And as always, I'm joined by my man, Zach Kyleman. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing just dandy. It is another glorious day on this planet, and we get to do our 33rd episode today. So I am having, of course, an exciting time. I get to have more time to spend just talking about the United States Football League with you yourself.
Man, it's going to be a fun show. Like I alluded to, we got a new segment. We're going a little bit off topic, but first we got to go over the usual social media. What are you doing? Are you not following us? You can get us at USFL Podcast at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm telling you, I'll be honest, we're mostly on the Twitter, but hey, if it's not your bag, we're at the other places as well. Since we're on YouTube as well, look down. If that button is red, you got to click it. Click the bell. It builds morale. And hey, you know what? Here's the real deal. If you do those things, you're also entered into all of our giveaways. Next one, 5K. We're giving an official USFL jersey of your choice. Personalized, possibly, if they're still available.
Oh, yes.
But, I mean, one thing to look forward to. But if you want a jersey and you want it now and maybe you want a retro one, well, we got a deal for you. Royal Retros, they are the number one name in the game when it comes to the retros. I mean, we're talking USFL, XFL, World League of Football. They got all sorts of stuff over there. But here's the skinny. You can save 10% by using coupon code USFL Podcast. And I love a good deal, and they got a good product. And I know, Zach, it's been a couple weeks since we recorded. That jersey is still coming. It'll be there.
I'm holding out.
We'll get there. And once I get it to Zach, we will review them on the show. We'll take a look. I mean, they're sweet, but you know what, Zach, if it makes you feel better, I still have mine in the package with yours until I get it out. That is like, I cannot enjoy it until you have it in hand.
I feel really appreciated that you are withholding your joy to see these brand new Royal Retros jerseys so that I can also enjoy it at the same time. That's pretty special. I owe you your thanks. And people, I just want to let you all know this man's been working like stupid hours lately. There's reasons why this jersey hasn't gotten here. We have regular lives outside the show. His is insane. Mine is less insane, but still, it is amazing we're even getting an episode in at this point right now.
Well, after that damn cartoon you made me watch, which we're talking about later, we had to get on here. But before we get to the off-season, off-topic, new segment, I mean, this week, it's actually good we recorded because it's like, well, the Maulers are one of them. It was yesterday or 2 days ago and today or yesterday, depending on when we're recording it. They had new signings both days. All the teams kind of getting in on the mix other than the Breakers, it looks like here.
Right.
But we got a whole boatload and some returning. Some guys returning back to the league. So it's nice to see that kind of happening here as well.
Exciting. That was exciting to see that. And I mean, it's going to keep trickling down. You keep seeing folks in the USFL like news cycle going, hey, there are people talking to other people. It comes down to a lot of stuff on, just the time of the year and trying to get everyone engaged in signing back or needing to sign back. So, it's all kind of all playing it out, but This stuff I imagine is going to start being more common, where you're seeing guys either officially or some in cases unofficially, depending on how you follow, that are going to be showing up saying, all right, here I am. I've returned to my roster. I've returned to a different roster in some cases.
Oh, sure. I know. And that's going to be fun to see here. And so, the big one out of this group that I kind of alluded to earlier is the Breakers, right? We have all the teams other than the Breakers have a signing. The Maulers showed out. I mean, holy smokes. They heard my words about the Generals and said, no, we're going to be the top dogs. Cause here's the thing, guys, we didn't do the show last week, but we were actually on with our boys, the USFL network, on the fan network over on the official USFL Discord. And they made it known the Maulers are catching up. And at this point it's crazy. But looking at the show notes that we have here, this is a very astute point that you have here, Zach. It has to be because of the coaching situation in New Orleans. You would have to assume that's why we have no new signings here. And I mean, if I were a Breakers fan, I mean, shout out to Ducky and Lowe and all of them out there, Logan from the newsroom crew. This has to be a little concerning. I mean, at first I was looking at it like, I don't know if they necessarily need to sign that coach right away. Maybe they could buy some time because, I mean, you still essentially possibly have some of that supporting staff. But now looking at this and I see, well, maybe there is a little bit more urgency that's needed in filling that role. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I added this point because they've only had one signing this whole offseason. That was August 31st. They signed on a safety, Slade, that is, they signed on for their roster. And, since the announcement of Larry Fedora stepping down, which I assume I'm going to take that assumption that talks of that were starting earlier in the process than when it was announced. And you have to think, if I'm a player or a returning player for that fact, and I have my head coach step down, that's a bit of uncertainty because you don't know if part of his regime is going to take over. You don't know if the league's going to have to start from scratch, depending on how the assistants are playing this out. There's a lot of unknown factors here for at least returning players, and even for signing players, you have to sit here and go, okay, well, if we are going to be focusing on going to teams, I would probably want to be looking towards trying to get on a roster that already has something. I could start an off-season program. I can start kind of taking in what my coaches want me to do, what is putting me in the best situation for when training camp comes, which again, we've heard 75 max people can be signed, meaning very competitive training camp is coming around the bend. And supposedly in at least early or late March. It's in March for sure. That's what's being talked about. One of the signings we'll talk about on here even mentions it in his own tweet, at least offhandedly we'll talk about. But you have to have some sort of platform and at least foundation of what your team, your roster wants. That's what I think we're waiting on. The league's obviously searching for that coach. I think they also are doing it. They're going to have to do it sooner rather than later because signings are coming up. USFL draft or XFL drafts coming up as well. So,
you want to pick up the people that maybe don't get signed or whatever. Yeah.
And you want to get more people, it's not just about signing because getting more people in USFL contracts. It's also because, hey, we're the Breakers. We want to compete. I mean, players especially, they still are going to get that massive 10K bonus next year for the championship. So you want to be able to get as much money as possible from win bonuses, from playing at your top level. And it feels good to win. No one wants to be a Maulers, a Panthers, or a Gamblers, really. I mean, Gamblers stands like week 8 and earlier. Yeah. Just clarifying, of course. Because I mean, it ended on a high note. Panthers fans, kind of a high note. Maulers fans, you get the drill. But having a coach, having a crew together, that's really important for this process.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, it's there in the numbers. I mean, let's just run down the list. So we mentioned the Maulers were up top. 17 since the last time we recorded, which was 3 weeks ago. Generals at 12, Gamblers 10, which nice. I'm glad to see that. Panthers coming in at 5. Bandits also coming in at 5. So they're slowly starting to catch up. I know one of our friends online, Jake, was getting a little worried, a little antsy there. Stars at 3. The Stallions feeling comfortable, only bringing in 2 folks here. But again, they are the championship team. And I mean, it seems like they might retain a good amount. It seems like Jamar Smith has alluded that he's coming back. I don't think we've seen an official announcement on it yet, but that's got to make Coach Holtz happy over there, because at least we have the confirmation he's coming back.
Right. The championship teams are the ones that are making me kind of scratch my head. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, if in theory, if you are going to have a lot of your guys returning and you're just kind of doing kind of the waiting game on some things to fall in place, then yeah, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. I guess you can kind of bide your time, because sure, the teams that really are making moves, for the most part, that need to make moves, 3 of the top 4 were the bottom feeders in the league last year. They needed to make moves. However, as we've talked, beginning of the offseason and even now, Mike Riley, he's just said screw it. Like they took that ugly loss against the Stars in the semifinals, and basically he's looking like he is, no matter what, is hell-bent to try and make it as a competitive and get the best out of what he picks up type of roster as possible, along with whoever does eventually return, mind you. Right. Credit, he did, of course, lose the USFL MVP to the NFL. Right. And we still have to wait and determine Darius Victor's status as well, too. Mm-hmm. So keeping all that in mind.
For sure. So do you want to run through some of these players?
You know what? Yeah. Let's go a little bit here, bit by bit, on some guys that at least stuck out to me. Some that you guys, if you're alt football fans, you'll definitely know some of these names, or you're gonna wince at least one or two, I think. Kicking things off here, and these 2 quarterbacks kind of made some waves just because the Maulers have been picking up a ton of them. They already had a Chase Fourcade on their signings list, by the way. We of course have statuses we're trying to figure out with like Roland Rivers, and of course others as this like as well. But they have signed James Morgan as well as Troy Williams. James Morgan, he played for Bowling Green, also played for FIU. Troy Williams, he was with Utah. So got a few guys, different schools. A lot of hype around Morgan, though. He was a 4th-round draft pick for the Jets in 2020, bounced around to a few rosters in 2021. And now he has kind of ended up in the hands of the USFL. Here's the deal. The Maulers, they need any quarterback they can get. They actually hired some new personnel for the at least the player personnel department for their side. Mm-hmm. That's kind of been just boosting things up with throwing a bunch of guys saying, hey, let's get some guys and let's make this competitive in year 2. Mm-hmm. Morgan is, I think, seems to be one of, if not the most hyped, most recent signing on this list.
Right. Well, and this is what I was telling you, Zach. In the world of spring football, anything goes, especially because we haven't seen a season 2 in quite a long while. The Maulers, I mean, especially with the amount of signings they're doing, if Kirby Wilson gets himself a nice supporting cast of coaches around him, they could be the turnaround team of the year. They could go from worst to first. And I want everyone to remember that I said this for a long time, even before, like when it was very early in the season and we knew that, after the pizza situation and things just weren't working too hot up there. I said, for all Maulers fans out there, this year doesn't mean that next year is going to be a complete train wreck. We'll see. Now, I will say, if the Panthers can retain a good amount of their players, and Jeff Fisher drafts wisely.
Correct.
They're in prime position to just be a solid team, right? Because let's say Reggie Corbin sticks around. Josh Love was looking pretty good near the end of the season. You add some receivers in there and get maybe stack up the defense. You could be that team.
Yeah. That they really have the potential, of course, with the draft slot they're going to have. The Maulers too, quite frankly, because really it was competing for 1 and 2 at that point, and add in the, Pittsburgh has, at least as of late, they have started to be on pace and exceeding pace of the Generals in terms of guys they're looking at and trying to rebuild. And again, I think the quarterback battle is something, if you're the Maulers, you want to have as many just kind of angles to look at with this. I mean, I said Roland Rivers, and I'm a moron for not mentioning Vad Lee. I just was having a brain fart at the time, but I mean, I get credit, statuses aside, because I know there's that whole clause-based issue on, hey, was there the opt-in? Was there not an opt-in? So we're all waiting on that to see how that plays out. But between, at least, say you have Lee, Rivers, I think for sure is, just because he signed after the said clause date that I'm aware of. And then you, of course, have Fourcade, you have Williams, and you also have James Morgan. Hell of a QB battle if you were to think about that in camp. To me, the front runners right away are, if I'm doing like 3 quarterbacks deep, I'm doing Lee as the starter to begin the season, Morgan second, followed by Rivers. Hungriest ones, I think, in terms of camp, I think Troy Williams. If you look at Williams's background, he was with the Utah Utes. He got succeeded by Tyler Huntley during his senior season. Did a spell in the CFL. He had bounced around with the Edmonton Elks for a minute and was also with Saskatchewan last year. Really hasn't had any starting playing time professionally. So if there's anyone that I think would fight the hardest to try and get some on-field tape, I think the main reason why most of these guys go to leagues like the USFL anyway, he's one that I'm hoping, we hear some good things about in camp, and that, it is a guy that's really scrappy and showing off, and that's going to be a tough decision for Kirby Wilson and company to make. So that's what this is building up to. I think a lot of people, they look at that quarterback battle, and I think that, us Panthers fans, just speaking my mind, we're looking at ours too, because sure, Paxton Lynch was great. Eric Berrier had his moments last year, to shine last year, and even Josh Love. Oh, yeah. At the end of the season, we got 3 quarterbacks that we could go, shoot, if all 3 do return, which one of them may be, it's unconfirmed but by the league, but has been confirmed by a very reliable person to report this, is returning at least. So yeah, that the bottom feeders of last season are going to have probably some exciting quarterback battles that could maybe propel themselves a step further.
For sure. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, right? That's what makes spring football exciting. And I think, for you, especially as a Panthers fans, and I think even more so Maulers fans, would love nothing more than at least have a winning season, but preferably go to the playoffs, because then that's like okay, great. Whew. Maybe not get to the championship, maybe not win the championship, but I mean, if you get to the playoffs, that's a nice turnaround from where you were last year, fighting for not being the worst team in the league, essentially.
For a league that you have to, you have a shorter list of opponents to go against, so you really have to know your opponents well to start off, and you have to stay healthy, to keep up if you know the top dogs right away. Right, get an upset or two. I think we saw last year, you don't want to be that one that is, close losses at the beginning and out of the gate. You want to be keeping up right away. Right. You want to be more, if you're wanting to change things around, you want to be closer to what, the Breakers or Stars were last year. I think, everyone of course wants to be, say, how the Generals regular season and the Stallions were regular season. That's not guaranteed, but you at least want to get, I think, either right at that one of those last seedings, if you can, showing that much growth, or hell, if you're really long-term gaming it, finishing where the Bandits are, as much as it would suck. Right. That's not bad for a team like the Maulers, well, really, I would say maybe the Panthers, but I think some Panthers fans would say that there's a little too much talent that was on that team that disappointed. So more if you're the Maulers, you'd be happy to finish like fifth seed and like competing every week. So take it where you're at. Moving down the list here, and there's a lot of Maulers on this list. I guess I kind of front loaded the list with a few Maulers players, but again, Pittsburgh's been signing like crazy. Some of them have been good signings, or at least on paper. This one, really like it. And for folks that watch or listen to this show or my other stuff, arena indoor football. It's like my second love. Besides I'll praise it. I'll have its praises all day. Dwayne Gary, who was playing for the Bay Area Panthers in the IFL last year, actually was for a team that was the low of lows in terms of performance. He was one of the shining stars on that roster. The Pittsburgh Maulers are picking him up. So a team that already had somewhat of a solid run base. I mean, Madre London came on strong the end of the year. Groshek wasn't a slouch at times beginning of the season. Now you add Gary, who is a little bit more of a shifty back. He's more of the speedster back compared to London or Groshek. Those two are more grinders and would break tackles more often. Gary's going to make you miss. So I dig the pickup. Nassau Community College has kind of built them, or that went then to West Connecticut State, built himself up through the IFL. Now he's here in the USFL on Kirby Wilson's squad.
Sign him up. And you know what? I don't watch. I was learning about arena football or indoor football or whatever that you want to prefer to call it.
They're two different things, my friend.
Yes. Okay.
I'll keep teaching you.
See,
just giving you a heads up.
We'll get there.
Don't let anyone tell you those are the same sport. They are different.
That's why I felt bad for Jim and whoever that other guy was when I joined for the championship game broadcast. I was like, I don't even know. I was like, what stadium are they in? And they're like, well, it's an arena. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh no. You kill me, man.
But anyway.
But look, if you're an IFL fan, you'll recognize the name. I will say, from the people I've talked to in the IFL that are, fans of the Bay Area Panthers, that was one of them. It's one of those signings you're like, I feel so happy for him because he proved his worth, but God damn, I wish he wouldn't be leaving right now because he was one of the gut pieces that made us that gave us a little hope. They're building a completely star-studded coaching staff. That's a completely side point. Nonetheless, Gary, really good pickup for the Maulers. If you're a Maulers fan out there, trust me, the reinforcements, at least by signing's sake, they look good. This is another good one. You're going to be really happy that this was a pickup. This next one, though, and this is more on the Panthers, let's just say it's a very conversational signing. If you're in the alt football space, you'll understand why. Garrett Moreno, defensive tackle, he was signed by the Panthers. Now, that name might ring a bell for folks up in the northern part of the Americas. For as you see, this man created a few controversies this season. Apparently, he has been labeled as a dirty player for a few, I would say, egregious hits. One specifically that really put into light, and I think that has kind of made people, I would say, almost do something like this. If you're watching the video, is I would say a pretty terrible hit on star quarterback for the Ottawa Redblacks, Jeremiah Mazzoli. They actually knocked him out for the season.
Oh, really? I was about to say, how bad was the hit? And so it was a big hit.
It was a lower leg. It was a lower leg knee, lower leg injury.
Right.
If you go and check it out, it's not lovely. It's definitely one of those hits that the NFL has outlawed over a decade ago, where you don't want to go below the knee. It's the Brady rule is really what, if you want to think about it, it's one of the worst examples of like the Brady rule being violated and why this safety measure was protected. There's another hit he had later on that kind of, I think, accelerated what was his release from the Saskatchewan Roughriders, where he hit Zach Collaros, another star quarterback in the CFL. And it was just one that was completely uncalled for. And apparently this has been a string of, I guess, tendencies for this player. Now, that being said, best I can say is, hey, I'm hoping he learned from his mistakes and maybe can make it a little bit more reasonable in the USFL. Otherwise, all else I'm going to say is there had to be something that Fisher's crew saw that made him want to sign him on in the USFL. That's all I'm going to go with it, because I don't want to go into too much on politics of it. I know some people were going, why did the league consider him with some of the stuff that was being alleged in the CFL? That's all I've got. You can look into the situation if you want in your way. I'm just telling you those facts are out there for you.
I'm going to play a little devil's advocate. Now, I will admit, I'm only looking at the Jeremiah Masoli hit to the legs. I mean, I don't see anything super. I get, yes, that you can't do that move, but it doesn't feel to me like it was overly aggressive. I haven't seen the other one, but what you're saying to me, it sounds like there's a string of events, and if that sounds like the case, I'm not going to defend it. But I'm just looking at that one. I could see, I don't know, I could see it not being intentional. I don't want to go too much into it because I'll tell you this, Zach, I'm almost certainly wrong in this scenario. Almost certainly. But I figure, I'll throw a little bit of spice out there. Let us know down in the comments. Am I 100% wrong on this? Sign me up. I want to hear it all.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's really a situation I think that's pretty touchy for that.
Yeah.
I guess with all the things that went down, I see this as a player that's trying to get a next fresh start.
Right.
If I want to put it in that way. And honestly, if we're talking the Panthers, and if I'm going to just talk purely what they need and kind of, I would say not fully ignore, of course, the players' backstory and some things that have gone on last year, but at least what they need. This is kind of the spot they do need help on, is one of them. They could not really generate much pressure last year, and teams later on were starting to get gashes on them in the run game. Defensively, they needed some help. So I'm not arguing in that sense. Just keep in mind, you can look into that story, but it's a headliner because of that, of the said
for the
recent
wrong
news
reasons
around the gentleman. just giving you all a heads up.
Right.
Yeah. Moving on, though, this person, though, Matt Mangle,
Yeah.
that name will ring a bell because that is a returning player. Unique route to come back, though. He was with the Philadelphia Stars as a punter and their place kicker. He was released mid-season, actually after a pretty good performance. Funny enough, I thought it was one of the stranger cuts that week. And now he's back, Pittsburgh Mauler. He also on Twitter posted out a edited photo of him. His Stars uniform is now a Maulers uniform, and he says, "Hey, see you in March," which everyone tipped off. Went, "Oh, there it is, training camp. It's definitely March again."
Yep.
Definitely not starting earlier. Question now is, when in March, early or late March?
Sure.
We'll find out.
Sure.
But that was at least a tip off. Like, yep, March is definitely when training camp's going on, is we thinks based on at least his reaction. Could be changed, but that seems fairly certain.
Sure. So let's see who else. Oh, Bandits here. So again, Jake will be happy with this one. Because
I am also happy
the
with
Bandits
this one.
are, few and far between, but they're coming in pretty good. DJ Myers, wide receiver here for the Bandits. So, you know what? Todd Haley, he's maybe waking up, getting ready, stretching out. Maybe we'll see the Bandits do what the Maulers have done recently and go on a string. Now, we only have one here on this list, but tell me your thoughts. You were saying you're happy about this pick.
Well, this one I'm pointing out for a few reasons. It's another arena. This is another indoor arena guy. NAL product, so definitely somebody that I am more accustomed to watching. I love the NAL, for those that don't know. But few things to go with this. First off, he's going to his brother's team. Guy Myers is his younger brother that they are going to be playing together. First off, doesn't mean that Guy is going to be starting and throwing to him, but it's nice to see that tandem. Second off, and this is more important in terms of performance. Why, if you're a Bandits fan, you should be excited. 2 years in a row, NAL. He is on the NAL All-Second team last season, and that was his rookie year there. It was pretty impressive to help the Orlando Predators lead themselves to a playoff berth. Was really their main offensive weapon on that roster. Really great job as a receiver. And then, if you haven't followed the NAL, they have started this past season Ironman rules, where mainly the majority of the roster has to play two ways. So you have only a designated two players that can per side that can be one-way players. He was not one of those players.
I see.
He played linebacker as well as starting receiver for the Carolina Cobras last year. And guess what? He won the most prestigious award in the NAL, Iron Man of the Year, the best overall two-way player in the league. I'm telling you, and this guy also got first team defense, second team offense. This is a good talent with a motor. He has plenty of the skill sets you want in this league. This is a hungry guy, a guy waiting for his opportunity. And I've talked with his mom as well. I went to the championship and she met up with me. Mm-hmm. He's been waiting for this moment, and it's got to be really special for the Myers family to see both their boys getting a shot in one of these leagues. So if anything, you should totally follow this guy if you're a Bandits fan. Mm-hmm. I recommend it. But I think in the terms of receiving category, for a position that I thought at times really struggled in consistency, that is, this is someone I think that does help that case. I think you're going to get someone that's going to really help elevate at least the rest of the room in that position group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's sweet. This is why I like that you follow all the arena stuff, because I would have looked it up by researching it, but I wouldn't have known all the ins and outs about that. But I will say I do feel a whoop coming on, which real quick, let's
you almost got me. And then I looked at the notes after that. Damn it. You got me good there.
Mr. I'm probably going to get the last name wrong, but I got to say Mr. Whoop is pretty sweet moniker already. Mr. being his first name, Whoop being his nickname. Philor, is that how you say that? Philyor?
I think it's Philyor.
Okay. But man, sign this guy up. I want him to be the MVP, name alone, wide receiver for your Panthers over there.
Yep.
I mean, this is nice. Tell me more. Tell me, what do you got on this guy?
Well, sure. I mean, look, the Panthers could use a little bit more of that receiving help. They're actually kind of getting a lot of depth at that position now this offseason. But what do I like about him? First off, Big Ten product, someone that I think showed that he has potential and had some success in the Big Ten, just not mainstream. I'm going to have a high draft profile type of success that some Big Ten players have. I mean, hey, when you're in the Big Ten, you got to compete with, people that are getting recruited by Ohio States of the world, the Michigan States, the Michigans, so if you're at IU doesn't exactly have that big of a thing, but that big of a football program. It is growing, but let me get to the point. Has 3 years or has a whole college career at IU. Two of those times, two of his seasons, that is, end on either the All Big Ten conference list or honorable mentions All Big Ten. His junior season, that is, he was named a second all-team Big Ten. 1,000 yards receiving, 70 passes caught, 5 touchdowns. Intangible-wise, yeah, he's not the largest receiver, 6 foot. Mm-hmm. But, I'm still gonna say that, looks like he's more scrappy, gets the job done. And he was also, if I'm talking accolades as well, he was on the Fred Biletnikoff awards list, watch list at least. That means he was considered a top candidate for most outstanding receiver in college football. Mm-hmm. back when he was in college during his final season at IU. So there's a lot of potential here with this player. He had a bit of a camp spell with Minnesota back in 2021. Looks like he took a year off from what I can understand. I can't find any other info on his 2022 timeline, but he signed on for a unit that, really could use some help anyway. I know Joe Walker, he came on late, was probably the best option that the Panthers had at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But I think Fisher wants to be sure that unit and the options in that unit, it's not as sporadic. You can have guys that are ready to go. Same deal as the Bandits. I felt like the Panthers, it was kind of like hit or miss every week on who would actually come to play in that receiver group. Hyman had his moments, Walker later in the year. But I think, you want to hit the ground running and have those guys in sync right out of the gate and good talent out of the gate. So I put him on my watch list, plus the name. I mean, it's just going to be
Mr. Whoop.
I mean, that man officially put down his name on the signing as Mr. Whoop Fillier.
I love it. I mean, sign him up. If there's the custom jersey you need now, right? Like, Sign him up. We got a couple returning names here, though, coming up here. If I remember correctly, Devin Gray, right? Wide receiver for the Stars.
Devin Gray.
And then Trey Walker, which you put in the notes here, not official.
Yeah, there's
but
another.
There's
another one that's not official either. At least it's been announced. I'll be honest. We trust USFL News, the account. They've been, one of the top guys in terms of finding sources and getting the signing information, as well as of course the USFL Fan Network. So we appreciate all they're doing. But I trust them with the Trey Walker announcement. The other one I trust is Josh Love is apparently confirmed, at least via USFL News, to be returning. Now, you got to wait for the USFL to put the official signing date. But as we've seen, news will come out, and then it'll take them sometimes upwards a week to get the signing data down. So I would say that's a solid bet. If you're a Panthers fan, Josh Love's back. If you're a Maulers fan, you're really happy to say, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. Whatever QB's there, we got Trey Walker. At least we got Trey Walker. Sure. Bailey Gaither, he's out on doing practice squad work. He's back with the Ravens now, which that was nice to see that announcement this week. But hey, at least we get Trey Walker back, which was one of your top, if not your top target on that offense. Took, I think, the most brutal hit in the USFL last year. Besides, of course, Haney, who lost a tooth.
Right.
Just saying. But here's why these signings matter. We're going to see more of these. This is starting to. You're going to see more guys trickle in that were players last season. Re-signing their deals. Ones that maybe signed on at the beginning but needed to re-opt in or consider opting in based on that new clause. Again, it's that gray area that I think some of us are trying to figure out what's the deal with that gray area, that that monkey wrench that the clause threw in there, that kind of determined if you could come, if you had to opt in to sign in. And so all players had to go redo that for year 2 that were signed before the said May date. And so here we are. Now we're seeing those players. Like I said, Trey Walker, Devin Gray. These are guys that were on these rosters before that date. And so we're going to keep tracking those guys that come back as well, that get their year 2 and want to come back for year 2.
Yeah, that is probably the coolest part of season 2 is the amount of people that could potentially come back. Because I mean, any team that has a good amount of their team come back, I mean, you already have that gelling aspect. And sure, there's going to be a little rust and there's going to be a little this and that. But I mean, having a whole season under your belt with a good chunk of your crew coming back is helpful. Now on the other side of the coin though, Zach, for your opponents, it's going to be interesting because now, especially if a team keeps a majority of their guys, you have a whole season's worth of footage that you could draw on from last year. So it's going to be like a nice little chess game, and it'll be interesting. But I'm very excited to see who are the guys that come in that were like, again, we used the Maulers as an example. Are they going to go from worst to first? Maybe not. But I feel like with the amount of signings that they're doing here, they got to get more than one win, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the Maulers are going to be a 1-win team next season. Honestly, I'm hoping that we don't even have. I hope that the minimum is we have at lowest a 3-win team.
Right.
Which sure, some of the higher up teams are like, now we're closer to 500. But here's the thing. I think, we want to see what we saw last season. Competitive games, week in and week out. Stuff that makes you sit and be glued to your TV screen because you're going to be waiting till the fourth quarter to even figure out if you're deciding who is the victor. People want to see that if you're an alt league. So I think the Maulers, the Panthers, they realize, hey, we were close last year in a lot of games. The Maulers, it was a lot of, and in all honesty, incompetent offense and some strange calls from a first-year head coach.
Yeah.
For the Panthers, it was basically that, except strange calls from a veteran head coach that was the most hyped one coming into the league. So, you gotta take the good with the bad, I guess, and you have to regroup and hopefully get back. I hope none of these teams have one win. I hope that they can at least get 3 apiece, if more. And I hope that one of these bottom feeder teams makes the playoffs for the sake of, hey, progression through signings, through our process, through getting this all together. So that's what I'm looking at with all this. And, quite the return signings do help as well. Trey Walker for sure. And Devin Gray, I mean, this is an example of a guy that's saying, okay, I'm coming back to where I was comfortable at previously with Bart Andrus. I got my shot with Kansas City because of this shot with the USFL.
Mm-hmm.
And, sure, I got cut from Kansas City, but I can get another shot with another team. I just got to get more tape film and have another good season.
Yeah.
Prove myself here with Philadelphia.
It's going to be exciting ride. Like I said, we're seeing guys get signed up. And now it's funny because I've seen, the internet is the internet. So you always get like a little bit of banter back and forth. But I saw an interesting take the other day that the USFL is scared because of all these signings to try to stop them to go from another league. And they were even tried to allude that they're not having a draft, but let it be known they are having a draft. And now here's the way I kind of see some of this work out. Not all these guys are going to make the roster, Zach, right?
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about right now they have a max of 75. That's going to get cut down. I see a lot of these guys probably going into the draft pool with a mix of maybe some guys coming out of college. The NFL season's ending, so people may be coming out of practice squads or whatever it might be. So, I mean, silly take from the internet, but I had to bring it up, right?
Well, I'm not going to add too much to it, except that this is part of the business we're going to be getting into. Someone else coined the term, it's spring football wars. Like, look, if you have a person that wants to sign on here and, the league gave you a good offer and you can go in and go right ahead. And again, I also think people are ignoring the fact that, you have two paths right now with, like I said, if you're talking the two main ones in the room, the XFL and the USFL, sure, the CFL as well. But I'm going to give them a pedestal up because they're established. They are the next best in terms of North America. Not even going to make that debate right now because they, as much as we talk about stability with the CFL, sometimes they are the most stable and most proven out of all these. So separate entity.
Sure.
Meanwhile, the XFL and USFL, they're an American market. They're competing for a space that is a step below the NFL, and there's plenty of players.
Oh, yeah.
And there's two ways you can look at it as a player and an agent. You can either look at your player and say, okay, we have the XFL draft coming up. I can get you in the pool, but you got to wait and see if you get picked up in the draft. So keep that in mind. Sure, you can maybe get picked up later on after the draft or you don't. However, you have to wait through that process, which is coming up later. Or there are I'll say 7 because we are still waiting on the coaching replacement in theory for the Breakers that might be holding some stuff up. Nonetheless, there's 7 USFL teams, 75-man max roster from what we understand, that are looking for players that you can get signed on right now. You can get focused in on getting your team's game plan and philosophies ready to go for the offseason and for training camp. And you can be ready and be talking with a team and getting yourself prepped so you can get more tape and more exposure. Those are your options right now. Or you can, of course, go to arena. But if we're talking that level, those are your choices.
Right.
So some players want to go to the teams that are there already. Some want to take their chances with the draft and see what the XFL has, and they're taking that offer. That's the business. I don't see this as like, quote, desperate, quote, outlandish. Guys, this is what's going to be going down. I mean, these two entities are going to be signing the best players and trying to find the best to make the best brand of football. You got to understand that this is a business.
For sure. I mean, and it'll happen the other way around too, I'm sure. I mean, it kind of did with some of the coaching staffs, right? And so we'll see some back and forth between these leagues. And I mean, realistically, let's just hope they both succeed. At minimum, one succeeds. But let's hope for both because I don't want to be that guy.
Right. Again, I'm more fascinated with the competition. I've said it on this show. I'll say it again. It fascinates me. I do not want to pick a side whatsoever because I want to see these philosophies the two have play out. But people want to look at stuff, to me, a little more skewed, I think, than it really is. Signings aren't desperation. It's part of the business of football.
Right.
You got to live with it. That's how it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For those that are disappointed, I am sorry to tell you, that's how this is going to work.
And they'll get over it. We got plenty of time before the seasons kick off.
Of course they will. They'll see more people get signed on or flip over. It's gonna happen. It's bound to happen.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. So I think we exhausted that, but we have to. So one of the reasons, I'll be honest with everybody listening to this show, I knew we were already getting a couple weeks out from recording. We did the show with the USFL Network guys on the USFL Discord last week, but our channel was getting a little, just a little stagnant. So I said, well, we got to record. Luckily, we got a bunch of signings. But Zach, I'll tell you, I don't know if I should be happy with you or mad at you, because I've never been cut to the core by a cartoon quite like I have over the weekend after it wasn't necessarily your suggestion. You had mentioned on Twitter that you were watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners.
I did.
Which prompted me to go and say the game is garbo. I bought it at like day one and played probably 5-10 minutes, and it was a buggy mess. Now, I'll tell you, Zach, since then, the game's not so much of a buggy mess. So good. Okay. Sign them up. I did not expect this out of a cartoon. Now, an anime, I guess, is the proper terminology. I don't watch a lot of anime. I don't know if I've ever watched an anime all the way through. I think I've maybe seen a couple episodes of like Desert Punk, which is kind of an obscure one. Okay. But that's about it. So I didn't really know what to think about this Cyberpunk Edgerunners. And oh my God, it broke me down. I'll tell you, it took me up until maybe a day or 2 days ago that I don't know if I wasn't depressed, but like I said, it cut me to the core, man.
Well,
so what are your thoughts on this silly show?
I mean, the ending gets you,
Spoiler alert. Fuck it. I mean, sorry.
I mean, I don't know how many of you listen.
I don't know how many of you listen
to this. I mean, for those that weren't listening, this is the beginning of the first ever off-season, off-topic segment. So, the subject for today is our experience with Cyberpunk and Edgerunners. Just letting you all know. And I'll be frank. I watch a little more anime from time to time. My brother is really the one that gets me to do it. I kind of sit down with whatever he's watching. Mm-hmm. But this one, I was like, all right, I read a bunch of the hype on it. I'm more a video game guy, so I'm like, screw it. I'm curious, and the ending really cut me deep. The show, beautiful. The story, I thought, excellent. I'm kind of with you. Like even right now, like, coming into the show today, I'm like, for this show today, I'm going, it still hasn't set with me. A good television show or anime or cartoon has hit you to the core. If you feel a little empty when it ends, and that you are almost like relating to the characters as if they are in real life and that they are people that you do care about. Like that's one of those things. If you for 10 episodes, it's 10 episodes that grips you and makes you definitely feel that way. It's a short but quick blast of whoa.
Oh yeah. Now let me ask you this: subbed or dubbed? Which did you watch?
I definitely do. I do dubbed.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I know people make fun of me online, but I don't care.
Oh, I know that there's the diehard anime community will tell you subbed, but I'll be honest, I don't care because I would rather be able to watch what's on screen. I feel like I get too distracted reading subtitles. That's the problem.
That's my thing. But the one good thing I have heard is that people said the dub of this was very well done.
It was.
And I like how they incorporated the terminology from like the Cyberpunk universe, like choom and preem and, all of those things. Now, I'll tell you this, Zach, I haven't read. We're going to go into spoilers here. So if you want to watch it, fast forward. I'll mark the thing in the bottom.
Yeah, if you're on audio or video, I mean, hey, stick around. Maybe you want to learn a little more personality about us. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
We'll finish up, of course, with USFL on the opposite side of this, but when we do these, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Because we understand. We understand you're tuning in for USFL content, but hey, we like to share a little bit about ourselves too. And if you want to tune in, join the ride. But for this show and this sake, I mean, I have never played the game. Mm-hmm. This is going to make me want to buy the game now. And I think it's just because I learned after the fact how many things they took from it that were actually in there. There's so many set pieces that are actually in the game itself. You're talking like clothing, drinks, like all the stuff.
The apartments, pretty
the
much everything that's
is built.
big in the game or in the show is in the game, which
right.
is pretty cool.
They embrace the entire video game atmosphere, and now I just want to go and be doing more with it. So that's kind of it. Plus, now apparently it's playing better, so I kind of want to play on my PC, which I'm just basically waiting till my next paycheck to have that $60 lying around to throw at it, because I will do it.
Check this out, Zach. Go look at your go online to bestbuy.com. They have a deal for the PC keys for like $16. They were out of stock by me, but if they're in stock, everybody's trying to fire sell the PC keys because I think they want them. Nobody wants to hold them anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, if you can find them, it's just like a card with a thing that you throw into Steam, but might be able to find a deal that way. It is interesting though. All the digital copies up until this show came out, you could get Cyberpunk for like $20-$30. It was on sale like every other week. They know what they got with this show. Yeah. It's $60 everywhere. And I mean, hey, you know what? Sign them up. They even announced a new game, Cyberpunk 2, which I guess is in development. But this show,
hopefully they chill out and get it right this time, and do all the things that they promised to do with this first one they had to cut. So I that has me thrilled. I'm waiting to finally play it for the first time. And since then I become more of a PC gaming guy, less console. So like, I think I'm just going to accept it, you know.
PC master race, bro. I'm telling you, once you go with the PC, you can't do anything else.
Look, you get older, you look at your options. You go, okay, I built this, $1,400 PC rig, and sure, that's expensive. You're probably listening. If you're still listening with us in this section, you're going, whoa, dude, you spent that much. But listen here, this thing will last past that console I have. And I don't have a PS5. It's still $500.
And why would you even want one? Like, they barely have any exclusives. Most games you can get on PC, and at least you can optimize
all their exclusives over too.
Yeah. So this show, I'm going to tell you. So like I said, I didn't watch any like fan theories, but I don't know. Have you, like, on the ending?
I know one.
I'm curious to see how close I am. Let's see.
The one I know.
Hold on. Let me break my theory down, and you tell me if this is the same, because I want to know if I'm a savant or if I'm completely off base.
All right, I'll play it by ear. What's the theory? What's your theory?
Episodes 1 through 5, real life. You get to episode 5, JK puts him in the simulation. Ever since he pulled him out of the simulation, supposedly, and put him in another one, everything goes wonky. Let me ask you this. Who the hell is Falco? Falco was never around until he was in a simulation.
I'm not buying it.
You get to episode 6 with, oh my God, who's the mentor? Maine.
Yeah.
He starts getting psychosis. He kills his love interest. Boom. The main, why can't I think of anybody's name? David Martinez. He goes back to Lucy. But I mean, from there, then he starts cybering up, and he's turning into Maine. And I mean, by the end of the show, it's him reliving it. And let's just keep in mind what JK said. He told him exactly what was going to happen. He said, you cannot escape it. You are going to turn into this vision of yourself. And so then the first thing that happens is he watches it happen in real life with one of his closest allies. And one by one, all of his, this is what broke me the most, Zach. It's one thing when you watch like Breaking Bad or like a show over like 9-10 seasons and like these main characters die off. And even then it's like, oh my God, but you still have like a season before maybe 1 or 2 dies off. We got like everybody but Lucy and the bad guys essentially lives at the end. My God.
Yes. I don't buy it though. And that was the one that I had heard the most. I just don't buy it. I think to me, it's just kind of how the show ends. I think I mean, maybe it would have been a little bit on the nose, but I think if the show ends with David just dying, like they just, Adam Smasher aims at him, and you just have the flash fade to like go to black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'm going, all right, that theory maybe checks out. Maybe they're setting up for a season 2, or maybe it just ends right there. And you have that mysterious ending that is kind of what's been played out here still with what we have. But what do we have? They go further. Lucy goes to the moon. Lucy has her vision memory that she saved of David that has everybody shedding tears and me feeling hollow inside as well as you.
It's horrible.
That's where I don't buy it, because you're going to tell me David is sitting there in the simulation watching from like a eye in the sky godlike thing, watching his girlfriend go and do all this.
Yes, but it's not real. She's not really on the moon. This is all a simulation to torture him, to break him down, to do this over and over and over again, to make him, to see how far he can take it so that he can be an experiment. Now, here's how I see, there's 2 paths for season 2. One, I'm right? And if I'm right, it starts off with the scene from season 5 of them kicking in the door when he's about to be put into the second simulation. That's where it kicks off, but we see a whole new path of them trying to save David. David, my assumption, will become the bad guy in this situation, whether under mind control, because let's say, the big suit at the end, that probably does exist. They want to see, can he survive without getting psychosis? And with this simulation, they can find out how long he can go, because what they've alluded to is that he's special, right?
Yes.
He just, and that's enough. We didn't even talk about the beginning. His mom dies at the first episode or the end of the, right away. It's like you're getting hit from left and right. This David guy is, he's had such a tough life, but he just does what he needs to for everyone. But here's the thing. That's where it ends off, is he finally breaks out of it and saves his pals in season 2. Now that's one path I envision. Now here's path 2. I'm wrong.
Right.
And so I don't think they follow Lucy around. The great thing about Cyberpunk, which I don't know if you haven't played it yet, but when you start, you choose what type of character you want to be.
Yes.
And so I could see the next season being about the corpos, right? And then that's like that crew that you follow. And then maybe the third season is like the street runners, and you can go through the different sets that they have without ever having to do anything more than a season.
Or here's the third option, which is kind of what I'm wondering if they do it. And this is kind of a normal anime thing. Mm-hmm. One season.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It could just do that.
And that's the only reason I say that is some of the best animes are barely even long. Cowboy Bebop is one of the most celebrated animes ever made. Mm-hmm. And it's only 26 episodes.
Well, that's why I just found out like One Punch Man only had like 20 plus episodes. I was like, oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, that's what could be the other case is this is the story. Right. You get 10 episodes. You have a hell of a story that was put in a really compact time frame, and you can cherish it whenever you want. Because it's not always guaranteed to have a long running one. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just a one-off. That's where I'm wondering, like, some people say season 2, but I'm like, you do have those options, mm-hmm. but if you don't do like the theory mystery box one that you're talking about, I find it hard to say, let's go into season 2 with basically everyone dead except for Falco and Lucy.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's why I'm thinking though, if it's not, because to me, in my other theory, it wouldn't be like a season 2. It would be a season 1. It'd be Cyberpunk Corpos. And like it wouldn't be Edgerunners. Now, because here's the thing.
Do kind of like I guess like American Horror Story where they like do a rehash name or something.
Exactly.
Except it wouldn't be like an anthology. It would be they just make a new name for the season.
Yeah,
I'm talking.
Because here's the thing: if they do a season 2, like going to my option 1, if they do a season 2 of Edgerunners, it's almost guaranteed that they cannot top that. Right. And I mean, if they top what they just put out, I mean, kudos to them.
It'll be pretty damn hard to top
right.
what they did in 10 episodes.
But I'll tell you this, CD Projekt Red and Netflix are looking at this like, oh man, the money we could make. And so I almost hope they don't do a season 2, but they do. Again, it's not an anthology series, but along those lines. Okay, then we get 3 seasons, but they're completely separate to where if they completely bungle, Cyberpunk corpos or street runners or whatever it might be, then it's not as bad. You always have that original to fall back on. And I'll say, again, I'm not a big anime fan, but I know that people are generally hesitant of Netflix animes. I've heard not so great things about a lot of them. Now, maybe there are some good ones. But, I mean, so you got to imagine Netflix is looking at this like, wait. We got a hit on our hands, boys. We got to get more of this. And, I mean, CD Projekt Red's looking at it like, up until this show came out, this was like Cyberpunk 2077 was the example of how bad a game release could go.
Yes.
Other than maybe No Man's Sky, which turned their stuff around too. So sign them up.
Well, yeah, I mean, in game sense, I mean, they both did. And stuff like this helps, it's immersive. It gets the conversation going. And sure, I'll be honest, CD Projekt Red probably wants to continue to do stuff like this. Mm-hmm. I would feel this is for how much press it's gotten them and for the player base that's resurged, whether it's coincidence or not, it kind of makes sense. So plus the fact they also have The Witcher, which is still doing, I understand pretty well on Netflix. Like they have a great connection. So that's not guaranteed it's going away. And of course the studio they work with, Trigger, does a really excellent job with their animes from what I've seen. Mm-hmm. So, and they have a good catalog. So yeah, possibilities. My only thing and my final note on this whole thing, it's a funny one. Just don't make it live action. Netflix live action animes are always the worst. I mean, Cowboy Bebop, One Piece, some people say has potential, but I'm still like, no, don't touch that. Just let these things breathe in the art form they are meant to be, which is in anime and animation.
Yeah,
you do more stuff with
I don't like the live action thing. I mean, it almost never works out. It doesn't have to be an anime. I mean, the trailer for the Mario Brothers movie came out. So, I mean, that's a great example because the one when I was a kid was like, again, the ultimate example of how going live action can go wrong. Right.
Can't relate.
It took them this long to make another movie because that one, and I'll tell you, I watched it. It's actually not bad. I mean, they have a baller cast in that old Mario movie, but I just don't get their reasoning for being like grungy and like that feels like it should have been the Cyberpunk movie almost, right? Like
look up, I'll give you a series after we record today. It's this gentleman, Matt McMuscles on YouTube. He
solid.
He does What Happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's that's how you pronounce it. It's supposed to be What Happened, but he takes the T out.
Yeah.
And one of them is on the Super Mario Brothers movie. It has a ton of stuff that went behind the scenes. The production was hell.
Yeah.
Is all I could tell you. But it is so entertaining listening as to how this movie even got how that movie got dysmorphed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Luckily we have that coming along that looks good, that was shown off. And yeah, like the fact that Cyberpunk coming out and having an excellent animation track record for Netflix's problems with animation right now and their budget slashing. It was nice to see a project that didn't get canned that definitely deserved to stay on that platform and deserved to be showed off. So thank God.
Let me ask you this, Zach. So you mentioned you watch some anime. Like I said, I'm an old man. What is the go-to?
I'll tell. I mean, my favorite one, and I think the easiest one most people say to get into, is Cowboy Bebop.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one's just simplistic. To me, it's pretty straightforward. The story is comedic. It can be action packed. It is the same deal at the end where it's that heartfelt, gut wrenching, like, damn, I can't believe it's over feeling.
Right.
And the universe is enticing as well. It's a far distant future dystopian universe because they abandon Earth. And I can't gush enough about it. You really, if you, and it's all, you really can't go wrong. It's also one of the better, if not best, dubs that you can have, where you don't feel like it's cheesy. Like, it feels like something you can digest without having to deal with the, translation.
Sure.
So
let me ask you this. This isn't the one where they rip off the person's fingernails one by one, is it? You said comedic. So, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I can't be watching
it
cartoons.
it has been 1 or 2 years since I've watched the whole series through. I'm not aware of a scene that has that.
Good. Because I don't want that.
No, it gets bloody from like gunshots and stuff like that.
I'm fine with.
But no, trust me, if you are like, if you're now like, I want that anime itch, I need something else real bad, just go to that one.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Cowboy Bebop is accessible like every goddamn streaming service. You can go to Hulu. I'm pretty sure it still has it. Netflix has it right now because of course they have the anime going up. I'm pretty sure Amazon Video does. And I think Amazon Video also has the movie, which isn't too bad either. I have not watched the movie, but the movie is in chronological order in the story, like between like episodes 22 and 23.
Oh, that's good to know.
So if you want to do like episodes 1 through 22, watch the film and then finish the series. That's how you should do it if you're doing one straight run.
Oh, that's good to know. Hey, what do you know about Chainsaw Man?
Nothing.
I mean, one looks pretty sweet, bro. I don't know what's going to happen to me now because my siblings have been into anime my whole life, right?
Okay.
I've never, other than this is the first time I've watched a full series. I've gone to friends' houses that have had it on, and that's the extent of it.
Okay.
I feel like I'm going to end up being one of these guys that has like a bookshelf full of mangas now, because now I've seen Chainsaw Man, and Chainsaw Man is exactly what you would imagine. It's a man, but his head is a chainsaw.
Oh, come on.
And I can't remember where I was at, but I saw an image of like one of the panels from his, from the manga. And it's like him being all depressed that he can't get a girlfriend because his head's a chainsaw. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's amazing. That is where was I not thinking of Chainsaw Man? I didn't know it could be so simple.
I wasn't either, because it's something I don't, you can make anything an idea, I swear. Look, it's got a good story and you enjoy the action. To me, I think half of the enjoyment of anime is just the artwork in general. It's a different feeling. Sure, so there's variance in anime, but like, it has a different feel and style, and the art and design and the camera angles they make in terms of the layout of the shots for scenes, like storyboarding. That's half of the excitement for it. So, sure, if you enjoy aspects, go right ahead. I guess I'll check it out out of curiosity and give you a status report. It's on Netflix, right? I don't even know if it's an anime. It might just be a manga. It literally, but I think they're making an anime for it. Let me see. I think they are. I had heard it as you had said.
No, they are. They do. It's either out or it's coming out.
Okay. Well, I'll look up screenshots. I'll let you know what the screenshots look like.
Just look up Chainsaw Man on Google and you'll see. It looks, the manga covers look pretty sweet. So one thing before we end this off, because I think we talked about anime more than we did about football, but
no, trust me, I've been checking. We still have more football.
Good.
Still have more football.
So the one thing that I'll end it off with, because we were talking about the movie adaptations, is I can't remember. There's a few animes that they've made live action. And it's almost always guaranteed to fail, because of the one thing you just brought up recently is the whole allure, not all of it, but a big allure of anime is the art style, right? And that's hard to pull off in live action. The closest that we ever got, and it wasn't an anime, and I wouldn't even know if you would consider it a manga, but Scott Pilgrim. That's the closest we've ever gotten to a comic book to live action adaptation, at least. And that's not anime. And if it was, I don't know if we would. I think it almost needs to be like a half CG, half live action, where there's because the hairstyles and there's the colors aren't real life. They are, but they aren't. I don't know. There's a special feel to it. I've always appreciated the art, but I don't have enough time to be dedicating. Naruto is the one that all my friends watch. And so I always hear about how there's like that and Dragon Ball, how there's like 1 million episodes of those. And so watching this, I've just learned, Zach, that, yeah, most of these things are like, I don't know, 20 episodes, 22 episodes. I'm like, okay, maybe I could actually watch a couple of these things in my spare time while I'm either working or whatever it might be. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just the way you play it out, and if you want to be curious, you be curious, check out some stuff. Anime is a unique world. There are some weird ones out there, but a lot of them are really, there's a lot of really good ones that, you can just sit back, relax, enjoy episodically and get a good story out of sub or dub. So that's all I can tell you. So there you go. A little bit of anime take home. And honestly, just if you haven't caught the hint, like if you have Netflix and you are curious and maybe you enjoy animation, just check out Cyberpunk Edgerunners. It's really good. You shouldn't miss out on it. 10 episodes. It's worth it. They're only half-hour a piece.
Not even really. Quick. They're like 20, 25 minutes if you cut before the credits. So it's like, yeah, it's totally worth it to just binge through it if you can.
Exactly. It's a real quick watch, but a really damn good watch.
Hell yeah. So what else we got on the docket this week?
Well, honestly, beyond this, really, I mean, speculation zone. What players maybe don't return? I think that's what some people are wondering is like, I guess my speculation is, I'm not 100% sure, but like, obviously the quick one is Brian Scott. That's going to come to mind. A lot of people, he's been talked about plenty. His status is unknown. Speculation zone. If he is able to leave on that January cut, like they are talking about, I am thinking he does go.
Yeah. Which would be unfortunate.
That is my speculation zone. And I think it's just the situation of his injury coupled with Case Cookis' rise with Philadelphia and just the opportunity elsewhere that might arise. Maybe you don't have that with other rosters right now. That's kind of where I'm going with this. Otherwise, I think the league would want him around, but it's up to him.
Oh, 100%.
I'm getting vibes that he might make that
Well, it
change.
seems so because we've seen him with, working out with the XFL, it seems, hanging out with the other group of potential XFL quarterbacks. Now, I will say, if Stars fans out there, I know they were initially concerned, and I was too for Stars fans until I saw that Case Cookis recently had an NFL tryout, so that because I thought his injury was much worse than it seemingly is. So if that's the case, which I believe, I can't remember who reported it, so I apologize, but I feel like it was
the Cowboys.
Yeah,
actually.
Oh yeah, exactly.
With Jamar Smith.
It was a legitimate, announcement there. And so, I mean, that's great news if you're a Stars fan. If he ends up coming back, I mean, he was playing stellar. But, I mean, I think a lot of people just like Brian Scott because Brian Scott's kind of like that spring league guy. So I would love to see him back. I wouldn't blame him if he goes. I get, what they're doing. But here's the thing. If there's ever a reason and he needs to come back to the USFL, I think they'd take him back too. So I don't think there's going to be any hard feelings. Everybody understands this is kind of, we were talking about earlier, you can't really be mad about signings. You know what's going to happen. You might try to prevent them, whether it's contracts or discussions or whatever it might be.
Right.
But I mean, it is what it is. It's unfortunate to see. Now, where I'm curious to see is people like Luis Perez, right? Or Jordan Teamu, which, I would think if they were going to jump ship, we probably would have seen them in the mix in some of those videos, but maybe not. Maybe not. In our discussions last week over on the USFL Discord, we were talking about it. We had one of the Generals guys one of the Generals fans talking about it where Perez hasn't re-signed yet. So, I mean, that is a possibility as well. I'm thinking he comes back. I think Teamu comes back. Brian Scott, though, I'm kind of with you. It might not be in the cards, but maybe it is. I mean, January, you got to remember, it's a little late in the game. You already passed your draft, which, assuming it's seemingly looking like they're going to sign tier 1 quarterbacks again.
Right.
Maybe even starting and backup. Who knows? Because there was a good pool of guys that were shown in those videos. But so coming in January, then it's only a month-ish before kickoff. So maybe we'll have to see. I mean, to me, it's a 50-50 shot right now. It seems like Brian Scott wants to go to the XFL. And you know what? I get it. It seems like the running thing is these guys want to be able to play in their individual markets. And I mean, we're still waiting on word for where, the USFL is going to be next year. It's almost guaranteed that one of them is going to be Birmingham. We're probably going to see
it has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be. If they'd said no,
right.
I think you just burn your chances of ever moving forward further. So I don't even feel that's like speculation zone. I almost feel like that's a necessary confirm. There's no reason.
For sure. Well,
plus their main remember their main office is in Birmingham.
Right.
So they're not going anywhere. Like they are based there, primarily. And I mean, if I hadn't reiterated last episode, I'll reiterate again. Speculation zone. I do think it's the tri-state area in Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey market that they supplant themselves as a second hub. I'm feeling that there's enough. I feel there's enough of an audience there, as well as there's been small rumor nuggets that have dropped here left and right. Nothing that has really, I guess, added to a larger thread. The league is still working on a ton of, contract-based things and as I have said, as I have been told, no stone unturned is what I keep getting told. They are looking at all options and all availability. But I just get that feeling if you are trying to fix the audience issue that NBC talked about, two of your four northern teams are knocked out right out of the bat, and Pittsburgh is not too far of a drive for that third.
It feels like the logical
It
play.
makes sense.
It feels like the logical play.
Yeah, Panthers fans would be upset. I would have to drive farther or fly, but there's more markets there. That's how I see it.
It's a huge market because you have New York and New Jersey and Philadelphia, and with Pittsburgh not too far out. Yeah.
Plus, you and I are there in July. Look, I'll be frank. Stallions fans traveled well, but I'd make a good argument that the Stars fans did a pretty good job, all things considered, and that surprised me.
Yeah, 100%.
If they traveled all the way over to Canton, odds are I think you're going to get, at least for home crowds, hopefully a solid looking home crowd for the Stars fans out there. And then you hope you can get some folks that, maybe they like the Generals or New Yorkers that are nearby that, they can travel quickly over the line. That's the hope I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why I'm stressing that as much, because as much as I think would be massive crowds in Michigan, and I still kind of, as a guilty pleasure, hope Michigan, there's more people in the tri-state area to pull from.
I mean,
so I'm leaning that.
That's the big news for the off season, man. That is going to be the one that I cannot wait to record when it finally drops, because I mean, we've been waiting this long. Like I said, I am almost guaranteed it's not in Houston, because honestly, it'd be weird if they had two Southern hubs.
Yeah. I think if you're a Southern team, you're just out of luck. Unless there is more confidence, I think that we're feeling there's going to be four hubs, but I don't think that's the case. Right. I think, and this is again the speculation portion of this conversation. We've had this one for sure.
Yeah.
Where it just feels like having a second is the main thing, like not going over your limits, sticking to the plan financially that they have put in place. Meanwhile, hunting down investment banking and others that want to be in on the game next year. So yes, that's why take your steps, grow as you need, and then make sure that you put yourself in a position where year 3, as you promise, you are in all those cities. You are doing the things you said you were going to do.
Right.
From there.
Well, it's going to be fun. I just can't wait to learn. Hopefully it's before the new year, but I have a feeling it'll probably be early in the next year, but we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully not as long as the XFL fans are having to wait and see those team names.
Right, no joke. I feel bad. I mean, for us, we're fans of that league too. So like, it sucks waiting for that. But for mega fans of that league, I feel bad for you because I've been kind of wondering when they'll do that. You know.
Hey, you know what? I might have your back though. What was it? A couple of weeks ago? Was it even last week? I don't even know. I put them out there. You know what? Here is my dilemma, Zach. Can I break it down for you? My dilemma.
And to clarify what he just said, yes, he did cyber sleuth and find these names. So that did happen. Just giving everybody clarification here.
I'm pretty sure the XFL is probably not too happy with me right now. But here was my dilemma, Zach. Here was my dilemma. 11 o'clock, maybe 11:30 at night. I'm sitting here. And I mean, it's par for the course where every time they have a big announcement coming, it seems like they start tinkering with their careers website, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I don't know. Take a look at their site map. And I mean, hey, sure enough, there's a page that was updated that day. Let's take a look. It's the collections page, as it always is. And I had a screenshot of it, and you can see it's totally borked, right? Mm-hmm. But hidden in the borkedness, seemingly, is those 8 team names, some new, some old, some returning. So, I mean, the Renegades, they get to stay the Renegades, but now they're in Arlington. The Roughnecks, They get to stay the Roughnecks. Vegas gets the Vipers, apparently. We have DC keeping the Defenders. And then what we got? We have, because I want to mention San Antonio last. Who else am I missing here?
You have the Sea Dragons this time around.
The Sea Dragons, and then the Orlando Guardians.
Yep.
And then I think this is the one that I think people either thought I was pulling their chain or either became very angry about.
And I'll be honest, I also was one of those guys because I know you have the message I sent you on Discord where I'm going, you sure? Because I'm like thinking this is BS because of the name. Mm-hmm. It sounds wonky.
Right.
But the more you think about it, and people kept putting the dots together and going, okay, yeah, no, that kind of makes sense. It's just weird, but here you go.
Well, I don't understand why it's the San Antonio Brahmas, which I'm going to be honest, it sounds like a noise I would make before I have to throw up. Like, hold on, Brahma. Like, that's what it sounds like to me. Now, I think it's because of the S at the end. If they were the San Antonio Brahma Bulls, which maybe they will be, because maybe they just had it shorthand on the page, I feel like that's a better play. I mean, for all I know, because they were supposed to have the team names out 2 weeks ago. And then this is coming from the coach of the Vegas franchise, mind you,
right.
Rod Woodson, saying the team names are coming this week. So for everybody that gave the USFL a hard time, not that you should give the XFL a hard time, but sometimes these things happen. So let's all be fair on everything here. But anyway, team names are supposed to come out. They were supposed to have fan engagement events. They ended up canceling them. They're saying because of Hurricane Ian, which, okay, I get it, right? You don't want to, and this comes from Reed from the Markcast. Me and Reed have a love-hate relationship. There was some fun DMs that him and I had back and forth that night, but at the end of the day, I feel like we hate each other less, which I never hated him, just to be clear.
Fair enough.
Because he told me, he said, point blank, I think you're wrong. He was very mad about the Sea Dragons name, but I think, I didn't tell him this, but if he's listening, I'm sorry, Reed. But I think I watched him witness all the stages of grief to where he finally came to acceptance. And now I think he kind of likes the name. Now the Brahmas, though, the Brahmas aren't getting that kind of attention. It seems like, for the most part, people are not liking it, which shows me, Zach, there's not as many people watching the XFL that are wrestling fans than they may have thought, right? Because The Rock, knowing him, I instantly saw Brahmas. I was like, oh, of course he would name a team after him, kind of himself, the Brahma Bulls. But that's where the tie-in comes in. Texas, we have a lot of cows, a lot of livestock. So bulls, Brahmas.
It is a type of cow native to Texas. They auction them off. Mm-hmm. When I looked them up, that is like one of the first results you get is cattle auctions.
Right.
North American Brahma bulls.
Now, I will say it did cause some confusion because beyond that, it could also be a rooster, a Hindu god.
Is another one. And
I think even a composer somewhere. I could be wrong on that one. But that, I mean, at the end of the day, the names aren't that bad. So the Brahmas is a little weird. It does sound like Brahmas, like something. Maybe you have some bad indigestion. I don't know, but I feel like, I don't know. Initially, when I heard Battlehawks in 2020, I was like, that's kind of weird. But now I think it's actually a pretty cool name, right?
Well, it's cool enough to where fans like us of the Battlehawks would basically abandon ship if you change that name whatsoever.
I mean, they'd be crazy. They'd be insane.
Yeah. So it's largest fan base in that league. Mm-hmm. It's the fastest selling ticket base in that league.
Right.
You don't change it. They want that brand. You just leave it alone.
Right. So, I mean, either way, that was that week. But, so this is where my dilemma comes in, Zach. I never got to the poor little old dilemma. So I'm looking at this and I'm watching it happen real time. And I'm thinking, do I put it out or do I not? Do I want to be that guy or do I not? And then I start thinking about it. It's like, well, if I don't do it, someone else is gonna.
Sure.
That's just how it is. If it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else, right? And so,
and I think we've talked about, this is a community thing. This isn't just us.
Yeah.
Hire web developers that I guess do the job right, as you told me.
Well,
and others have told me.
All it is a staging server. I'll tell them I did apply for the job, which I thought was kind of funny. But anyway, here's where the real dilemma comes in, Zach. I think they could have gotten around all of this. So let's not forget our last episode when I was talking about a certain league shaking down the little guy. They shook down all the XFL podcasts. They all had to change their names, create new logos, all at the same time, mind you. So everybody's scrambling, trying to lock in that name before somebody else does. That's not cool. That's not cool. So my real dilemma came, and I sat there and I said, if they're going to shake down the little guy, maybe the little guy shakes them down a little bit, brings them back down a little bit. And you know what? Maybe they could be in the background changing some of these names to make me look stupid. I don't care. Honestly, I could care less. I really don't care at all. Because here's the thing, Zach, I got receipts. It was on their website. I didn't type it. Other people witnessed it and got their own screenshots and receipts. So it wasn't me just pulling up, inspect, and changing what was on the page. So there was smoke. There was fire. We'll see how it all shakes out. Either way, I like the league. I want the league to survive. But I had to say my piece because I'll tell you, Zach, there's people that are really happy I did it. And there's people very, very angry in my DMs that I did it too. And at the same time, I'm like, again, if I didn't do it, somebody else would. And maybe they'd be in their inbox angry, but I bet you they wouldn't. The ref lives a life of his own. I said this earlier. Live fast or don't live at all. That's how I roll. No time to make decisions. You just do. The answer is always yes.
They are your own rules. That I have known for a good while now. It is your way.
But I'll say this, for all the people at the USFL listening to this, I would never do this to you guys. just know that. And I think at least I meant to send a text to a couple of guys, just letting them know. Just by the way, I wouldn't do that to you guys. Not that that's anything against the XFL, but again, if they didn't shake down those guys a week earlier, I probably would have just let it. It was like 11:30 at night. Do you think I wanted to go write an article at 11:30 at night? No, I wanted to go to sleep.
No.
But no, my passion for the community as a whole stuck in. I felt like, Popeye eating some spinach and be like, let's do this, cranking on the keyboard. And then of course I had to stay up another hour and a half deflecting all the, the DMs, right? I talked about one, but I was packed full of people, either curious or angry or whatever it may be. So that's the other beauty of the internet.
The ref, the community champion.
Yeah.
There you go.
Took one for the team, guys.
Community
so
champion.
You're welcome. If you wanted to know the team names, you can find them. Good times.
I think that about covers it. I'll end it on a USFL note here, as we are still doing the question of the week, or really now I guess, question of the episode until we start doing weekly. This one I do want to, it's a little more free form and, manifests based on how the signings go. But question of the show is, who do you think is one of the next returning guys from year one that will land on a USFL signing update? We'll drop that tweet down as this show drops, so it should already be out by the time you're watching or listening to this episode. And, leave your thoughts on our social media, at USFL Podcast. This will be on Twitter for sure. And so, stick your comments. And if you ever want to leave a voicemail, by the way, USFLcast.com, you can go over there. We have a voicemail feature. We'd love to hear your response and thoughts on our shows and on the league via that tool. All it is a simple recording, and you submit it to us. So feel free to do that too.
Oh, man, what an episode, Zach. I honestly thought this was going to be a short one, and it was pretty long. I mean, thanks for the anime discussion, I'm sure. But you know what? It was a nice little change of pace. I'm sure we'll do some off-season, off-topic discussions. Probably not as long as this one. There was a lot to digest with that. But before we wrap things up, just a couple reminders. Social media at USFL Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go sign yourself up. Also on YouTube, if you haven't already, go ahead, subscribe, click the bell. It builds morale. And once we get to 5K, we're giving away a free jersey personalized to one of our subscribers. And I mean, go ahead and comment as well. Maybe rate us on your favorite podcast. It would be much appreciated. And one last thing too, Royal Retros, you can save 10% by using coupon code USFL Podcast. So go grab some retro gear, whether it be XFL, USFL, World League of Football, all sorts of things over there. Any last words before we head off into the sunset, Zach?
Just enjoy the ride of the off season, man. There's going to be a lot more twists and turns for both these leagues' stories. But, if you're watching for just the USFL, well, gear up. There's going to be plenty more people coming your way that I imagine will be coming back for year two that you're going to be really happy to see. And I just can't wait to get the Breakers' next head coach done and going so that we can have that fan base calm down and a little more excited right now. I feel they're the guys sitting just outside the party waiting for their for the bouncer to let them in. If you catch my drift.
100%. Well, good times, guys. I'm glad we were back here. Hopefully we won't be on pause for as long, but until next time, sign you up.